What's up, guys? It's a beautiful day here in December. I took today, tomorrow, basically like the next 6 days off. Some of those days are obviously going to be for Christmas, but I have a few days here to kind of work on the car. So the name of the game is going to be 4-speed swap. Let's see how it goes. So I'm pretty confident I have all the parts I need. Got a shift boot, I got pressure plate bolts, flywheel bolts, the actual pressure plate, clutch disc, flywheel, alignment tool, throw out bushing, fluid for the trans, factory mechanical clutch linkage. If you remember, my car is originally a 4-speed, so I do already have a clutch pedal, so I don't have to worry about that. Then I have obviously the trans with the bell housing, throwout bearing, clutch fork, shifter. It should use the same drive shaft as the TH350 that's in there already, and the same mount. At least that's what the internet has told me, so only time will tell when we actually get in there. Also, it seems to be able to use the same speedometer drive gear. So fingers crossed on all of that stuff. We'll have to figure out for sure when we actually get under there and start to mess with it. But I think that honestly should be everything. So the name of the game now is I'm going to lift the car up, get it safely as high as I can on 4 jack stands. Obviously we have to have enough room for a transmission on a jack to be able to come in and out. I can lift this one without a jack because I'll put the bell housing on first and then just kind of bench press the trans in, but I will need a jack to get the big automatic out of there now. So what I'm going to do is put a jack under each subframe, each side of the subframe and the front, and just kind of jack it up a little bit at a time to get it pretty high, then put some stands under it, and then I can jack the back up to match. So we'll go ahead and do that, and then we can start the removal of everything underneath. Alright, we are getting there. I got pretty much everything out. Drive shaft, shifter, kickdown cable, front cooler lines, dipstick. I got the cross member out. So basically, the flex plate bolts are out to the torque converter. So the only thing left are the bolts actually bolting the bell housing to the block itself. So that's going to be the next step. I don't know if I have enough extensions to reach just yet. I'm about to take a little bit of a break and grab something to eat, and then go kind of dive back into it and see if we can remove the transmission completely, and we'll be, in theory, about halfway there. So, yep, that's the next step. We are going to see if we can link together enough extensions to get to all of those bolts, pull them out with the transmission supported on a jack, and then we'll be able to lower the transmission down. Well, there she is. Transmission is out of the car. I would say if you can have a hand, somebody come help you, it'd be probably a little bit better. I mean, that's kind of the case with most things, but it really wasn't too bad to get out by myself. Only part that was a little bit kind of sketchy, or I wasn't super stoked about, was just how high the car has to be off the ground for you to get that out. So I had to raise the car like another 6 or 8 inches higher than it is now. And with a car on jack stands, I don't like going that high. So I had 2 jacks plus a motorcycle jack plus 4 jack stands. So there was no real risk of it like falling on me or anything like that, but I still just think it's a little bit sketch to have a car on jack stands that high in the air. But it was, it worked out totally fine. So that is definitely the hard part. The manual going back in will be a lot easier because I can just pull the transmission off the bell housing and install them kind of separately. So what I'm going to do now is go back under the car, pull off the flex plate. I can actually reinstall the starter. I didn't really have to take it off, but it gives you a little bit extra room kind of working on these bolts. So pull the flex plate off. Then I need to figure out where I'm going to make my hole in the floor, because the original hole, for the shifter when it was a 4-speed, has been since patched over and kind of repaired with metal. So I am going to need to drill a new hole. So I'm going to see if I can find maybe a template online, or I'm trying to avoid having to install it and then mark where the hole is going to be, but I may end up having to do that. But we'll kind of see what we have to do to get that hole drilled, do that, and then basically start the installation process. Figure I'd grab the GoPro and show you guys what it's looking like under here. So we have the flex plate removed, and I'm about to bolt back up the starter. So you can kind of see what we're working with here. The pilot bushing is going to go right in the center of the crankshaft right there, and then our flywheel is going to bolt directly to that. Same bolt holes as the flex plate. So should be pretty easy. Like I said earlier, the reinstallation should go a lot smoother than taking it out, because I can kind of separate the two. The manual transmission is a lot lighter. I don't have to worry about the lines for like the tranny cooler and kickdown cable and that kind of stuff. But of course we will have to figure out and set up our clutch linkage, which is something I'm about to look into right now, just because it's going to be probably the easiest to install right about now, while we kind of have the transmission out of here and have somewhat access to this general area. So probably going to need to go watch some videos, because I've never set up a manual clutch linkage before. So I want to make sure I do it right and have it adjusted properly and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and we'll start the process. So I'm just going to go ahead and tighten up the starter now, so I don't forget to do that. And then we will kind of move on step by step and just get the new 4-speed reinstalled. Alright, it's the next morning. I ended up running into a bit of a snag with my factory starter. So if there's two different size flywheels you can go with on these cars. There's, and I don't remember the exact, but basically it's based on the tooth count on the actual flywheel itself, where the starter engages. There's like 158 tooth and 164, something like that. The one that came with the transmission that I bought was the larger of the two, meaning it wouldn't work with the starter for the TH350 that was in here before. If I had the smaller 100 and whatever it is, 58 tooth flywheel, the factory starter would have worked. So I kind of either had the option of getting a new flywheel, which then I would have had to buy a new clutch and everything else, or get a new starter, and the starter was 48 bucks. So I just ran out, grabbed the new starter, and then yeah, bolted right up. I did have to use different bolts than the other starter, just because the kind of mounting holes are in a little bit longer than the other one. But we got that all figured out now, so I'm gonna jump on this clutch linkage, which seems like a real royal pain. It's got like 48 different pieces, and nobody online has put clear instructions on how it works, so it's going to be kind of a little bit fiddly, but I'm going to get kind of started on that. Once we have that done, then we can pop off the actual bell housing, bolt that up, make sure all that's good to go, and then we are kind of into the last few steps here. So this clutch linkage is probably going to be the biggest pain, so I'm going to go ahead and jump on it now so that we can get it out of the way. Alright guys, this video might jump around a little bit. It's been about a week since that last clip. Basically I ran into a little bit of a hiccup, and the alignment tool I had wasn't exactly the right one. It was 10 splines for the clutch disc, but the actual kind of piece that goes into the pilot bushing was too big. So I tried to shave it down, but it kind of didn't align it properly. When I went to try and put the actual transmission in, I couldn't get the input shaft to engage, and it was a huge pain. So basically I just decided to take a break, order the correct alignment tool, and then wait for it to come in. So that came in. I jumped under there, pulled everything back off, aligned it properly, put it all back together, and then I was able to get the input shaft to engage. So the transmission is 100% bolted in now. So next steps is I need to pull the mount and a few other things off of the old transmission, speedometer, gear, stuff like that. Put it on the new trans, then I can put the cross member back in. Once the cross member's in, I can do kind of final button up stuff. Drive shaft back in, and fill it with fluid, and we should be good to go. All the linkage and everything is good. I have the hole drilled and the stick coming through. It's a little bit farther forward than I would like. With the way these seats are kind of mounted, I don't have a heck of a lot of adjustability like any farther forward, because then my knees won't fit under the steering wheel. So I have kind of two options. One is I'm going to lower these seats a little bit, and I'll make a video about that. Whenever I put in the headliner, I'm going to pull the seats out, trim the brackets to lower the seats down. I think once the seat's down a little bit, I can go forward just a little bit more, and it'll be a better reach. I'm also thinking about just getting a new lever as well that's a little bit longer and a little bit more of an angle to bring it back. So I can still reach it just fine now, so it's nothing that's you know, super pressing, but eventually I am going to need to figure something out, because when I go into first, it's a full stretch, and with harnesses you don't have a whole lot of room to move around. So we're going to go ahead and pull the mount off of the old automatic and put it on the new one, get the cross member in, and kind of move on. All right, bring you guys under the car here. We have the transmission in, speedo cable is in, drive shaft is in, cross member is in. So we are almost 100% done down here. All we have left is the fluid, and I was trying to use the fluid just out of the bottle with a hose on the end, and I just can't get a good angle on it. So I'm going to pick up one of those little pumps that you screw into the top, and you can kind of pump it in. That'll be a lot easier to do, so I'll pick that up most likely tomorrow morning. And that's really the last thing. So of course I don't know how the clutch is going to be adjusted or any of that stuff until I can start it and see kind of what's going on and see if I need to make any adjustments. I kind of have the baseline set, but we'll have to kind of do some fine-tuning. But for anybody thinking about doing this, this is confirmation that if you're coming from a TH350 to a Muncie 4-speed, you know, the cross member for sure works, the speedometer cable for sure works, the drive shaft works. So not a whole heck of a lot of parts you really need to do the swap. So I think that's probably gonna do it for today. I'm just gonna keep this video going kind of while this whole process is getting done, just to put it all in one giant video. Have a little bit of buttoning up to do under the hood. I got to put the distributor cap back on and reconnect battery and all that kind of stuff. But right now I'm going to fire up the Triumph. Let's go for a little ride around the neighborhood. Kind of been really cold here lately, and I just want to make sure the battery stays charged and everything's good. And it's about 60 right now, so I'm just going to throw my jacket on and take that around the block. I'll bring you guys back tomorrow morning when we have the pump, and we can kind of finish this up. And at the end of this video, I want to actually take the car for a drive with the 4-speed. So that's the goal. What's up, guys? It is New Year's Day. It is cold in Texas. What in the hell? Literally, this video has taken me, I don't know, a week and a half to film, just because of the work I was doing and the holidays and everything else. We've gone from like mid-60s, I took the Triumph out, to it's 25 degrees today. And then later this week it's going to be back to the mid-60s again. So Texas is a little bipolar when it comes to weather, but I'm not going to let it deter me from working on the car. I'm just going to bundle up, make it happen. Let's see. We are super close to being done. So the whole underneath is done. I just filled it up with fluid, so we're good there. I jumped in here and put on my super cheap shifter boot that I don't like, that I'm going to replace because it's super thin metal and it just warps and it looks kind of funny. Better than just a hole, but kind of a temporary fix. Also, if you're going from an automatic to a manual and you need to jump your neutral safety switch, what that switch does is, only lets the car crank when it is in park or neutral on an automatic. But on a manual, they don't have that. So you just have to jump it. It's the 2 purple wires that run to the shifter mechanism itself. Literally just jump them, and that's it. So then it always thinks the car is in park and lets you crank it. So we are to the point now where I'm going to fire it up. I'm sure it's going to be pretty damn cranky. not being started in a while and it being so cold, but it's still up on jack stands, so I'm going to start it up and we're going to see if it moves with the new transmission. Let's do it. Okay, I fully expect it to be a little bit hard to start, but let's see what happens. Alright, moment of truth. Let's see if the wheels move. They move. Alright, she is back down on the ground. I put a couple gallons of fuel in it, so it should be good for a test drive. Alright, we're going to fire it up, and it's one thing to have the wheels move when they're up in the air. It's a whole nother thing to have them actually move the whole car. So fingers crossed we didn't forget anything. I just went through my checklist to make sure everything was torqued and fluid, and I think we're good, but only a test drive will find out. So let's go. Alright, switch you guys to GoPro. My parking brake seems to be working well, which is good. Should be reverse. This is kind of downhill, so it's cheating a little bit, but seems to be working. Okay, let's try to go forward. Going forward. Didn't quite have the chance to have the clutch go all the way out, but it seems to be working. So I'm gonna hook you guys up on the windshield and we're gonna try to go a little bit further. All right, got you guys on wide view. Gonna actually roll up my window. If you remember, it's cold as hell. This doesn't seem right. Guess I gained a little bit of weight over Christmas. There we go. Woo! I'd be lying if I wasn't a little nervous. Transmission's got some really thick oil in it. It's like 75 W90. So I'm gonna cruise around a little bit. So it being so cold, that oil's got to be like syrup right now. So I want to let it kind of go around the transmission. And I don't know how long it's been since this transmission's actually been used. I bought it from a neighbor of mine, and I know it's in good working condition. But again, I don't know, it could be 15 years since it was used, so I just kind of want to, you know, let the oil circulate around and just kind of take it easy for a little bit. Obviously, it's a brand new clutch, so we've got to let that kind of break in and stuff as well. But so far it's doing well. Man, I miss shifting gears. The shifter is so far away though. Oh yeah, proper muscle car. Definitely gonna need to lower this seat. My thigh hits the steering wheel a little bit when I go for the clutch. Take it for a 5-minute drive or so, and then go back to the house and check and make sure nothing's leaking, nothing worked itself loose, or you know, kind of anything like that. So not a super long test ride here, just kind of enough to verify that everything's working properly and we don't have any big concerns. bring you guys back if anything exciting happens. Alright, we're at a light here. Overall, it seems to be doing really well. So, a few small things. I don't think I trimmed the floor quite enough. So third gear, I can feel it just contact something. And once or twice when I went to go into third, it didn't quite engage all the way because it's kind of getting stopped. It's really slight. But I want to look at that when I get home, just to see if I need to trim maybe like a 1/4 inch more, just for the more clearance there. My speedometer's not working, so I remember hooking up the cable for it, but it doesn't seem to be working. So I'm gonna pull over here in a little bit and make sure that cable didn't pop out, because that way it could actually leak some fluid out. But overall, she's doing really well. So, well, as you can see, made it home. It's working almost perfectly. So a few small things I'm going to need to address. Like I mentioned, the speedo's not working, so I have to check. I know it's the same speedometer cable that came out of this automatic transmission, and the hole looks the same and the gear on the inside looks the same, so I don't know, I'm gonna have to mess with that. Not a huge deal right now anyway, but we'll eventually have to look into that. Main thing I want to make sure is that that hole, or that cable, didn't come out and it's leaking fluid out, because obviously we don't want to be leaking fluid. The other things is I think I need to trim the floor a little bit more. When I go into third gear, I can feel it kind of hit. Either that, or I need to adjust the shifter, because it does grind a little bit when you downshift from fourth to third. So I have to make sure that the shifter is actually adjusted properly, and also that it's not contacting the floor. Not a huge deal. When you go second to third, it works perfectly fine. So if you don't downshift, you would never even notice it. So not a huge deal, but definitely going to address it. I think that's it. So yeah, freaking super awesome. And so, ooh, you can kind of see part of his bike. I don't know. We'll keep that in there, because I know some of my bike guys don't watch the car content. So that's going to be the new motorcycle project I should be starting. I'm going to start it this month. I'm really anxious to get going on it and excited about being able to do it. So on the car, the next thing I have to do, I want to get these gauges put in. I bought some Bosch oil pressure, coolant temp, and voltage. Just the little 3 universal gauges. I want to put those on so I can start to actually, monitor more closely the actual engine temperature and oil pressure. Then I want to do my rear sway bar, which is still sitting here in this box. I have subframe connectors to put on. I have my headliner to put on. So still got lots of projects, but super awesome to get that transmission done. and the car back drivable again. Being able to drive it for like a week and then having it be down for like 2 weeks made me really miss it, and driving it now with a manual is really incredible. So I know this video is probably a little bit longer, but I hope you guys liked it. If anybody has any questions about the automatic to manual swap, let me know. Obviously I just did it, so it's pretty top of mind, so feel free to leave a comment below. Check out my Instagram for some kind of behind the scenes stuff, and we'll see you guys on another video very soon.